The Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max. What's the deal with that whole ProRes Log thing? And what would you use it for? What benefit does it have? And how does it compare to just shooting normally without it? Well, let me explore that with you and show you some of the neat little quirks and features that I found along the way. So you might be wondering, what is Log and what the benefit of Log is? So I brought in a camera expert, Sydney Zhang, to help me answer that question. So what would you use Log for?
Well, Log really is a color profile, a flat profile, where you utilize the entire dynamic range of a camera so that you can color correct and color grade in post. If you're using just a normal video without that dynamic range, without that flat profile, it's going to be hard to like fix the sky because it's like overexposed. But if you shoot in Log, you're going to have all that data right there to play with on your computer. Like you could be able to like bring down the sky, bring up the shadows. It's just really nice to use professionally.
Yeah, so it sounds like you would just get a little bit of the extra data in the highlights and the shadows, so you can get a cleaner image as opposed to it looking either crushed in the dark or really blown out in the high end.
That is correct. You are correct, Brandon.
That's me.
Oh, nice. Now, I'm not quite sure what the log footage looks like well graded, so we'll have to go to Brandon in the studio to answer that question.
Now, when we compare the default normal non-log video with Apple log footage that is adjusted to this base standard for video that's called Rec 709, and it uses a process called color space transformation, well, those comparisons between the two reveals an image that looks less crunchy on the Apple log footage. In the original, you'll see that the highlights are extremely bright looking and the dark areas are much darker. It's quite contrasty.
It is kind of interesting. You can film in ProRes on the front facing camera, but this is what the normal camera looks like without ProRes Log and graded. And now here is what ProRes Log looks like on the front facing camera. And here it is with it graded compared to the other normal video without Log. How do you think it looks?
Obviously, the front-facing camera is not as high quality as the rear camera, but it is quite surprising to see ProRes Log as an option there, and it surprisingly looks solid. Additionally, colors on the default setting are oversaturated rather than natural. This has been a massive pain point for me when I look at my skin tones. I look horrible on normal iPhone videos, but in Apple Log, my skin tone and the texture looks great. I'm honestly a bit perplexed why Apple is processing skin tone and textures like this.
So one thing that is really unique about shooting in ProRes Log on an iPhone comes from the auto exposure that it's calculating and everything. Typically, when you are filming on a mirrorless or DSLR and you're filming in Log, you have to adjust your exposure and make sure that you're not overexposing. And the fact that you could just point and shoot your camera, your iPhone, at something in Log and it'll auto adjust the exposure for you is a really amazing pain point that's been removed from the whole creative process while being able to still obtain a high quality video image. That's really cool and really big for content creators.
Along with auto exposure, it also adjusts the white balance the majority of the way for you so you don't look overly blue or like you're in a desert somewhere.
Usually when I'm doing the talking head, I've been filming it on the front facing camera. Here it is on the ultra wide on the main sensors on the back in ProRes. Let's see how this looks. Now we're at 1x. I'm not sure how much of me is in the frame, but you can get an idea. We have 2x, which is just a sensor crop. And then 5x, you're probably looking up my nose. So just checking the footage at me using this, holding my arm out at the ultra wide, just with the iPhone, this thing is really dang good looking. If you would like a video that's completely filmed on the iPhone 15 Pro Max in Log, let me know in the comments because I'm pretty tempted to do that. And if there's enough interest, I'll do it.
Like Sydney taught us, with Apple Log, you have all this data in the image that allows you to do a bunch of different things like adjusting the way it looks. And that allows you to get things like a more creative look. And there are a ton of options that you can go with because of that. Additionally, the Apple Log footage does not have all of the sharpening added to it, but it has a softer look to it, which allows you to add your own sharpening later on to your taste, if that's what you want. A downside of over sharpening beyond how it can make your skin texture look is how it can make your background look more in focus rather than blurry, which makes your image look flat. So if you see over here, I'm in focus, but the background's blurry, and it kind of has a look to it that a lot of people like. All of these factors look far more filmic or cinematic rather than like you filmed something on a smartphone. The fact that I can use use video film from this phone and go between a dedicated camera that costs thousands of dollars, and most of you probably won't notice a massive or obvious difference, is truly incredible. One of the most astounding things this year is action mode on the 15 Pro Max, especially on that 5x telephoto.
Did you just shoot in action mode? Because that is the face of someone who just used action mode.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm like holding it and I see it popping around on the screen. I'm like, there's no way this is gonna be good.
It's crazy good, right?
Really good.
The fact that you can film something without trying to hold it that steady and you get smooth gimbal-like results is insane.
I'm gonna do a little active or action mode shot on ProRes.
Pretend I have a knife. My little boy legs. I can't keep up.
I need my inhaler.
Compared to the 14 Pro Max action mode with a 3x telephoto lens, you can tell that there's definitely a noticeable improvement on the 15 Pro Max, especially when you consider how your footage becomes more shaky the further that you're zooming in. And by the way, if you zoom in far enough, it gives you a little preview screen, so that's kind of nice. Now, Sydney and I have a theory that perhaps action mode's preview screen looks way worse than it actually is.
So they're making it look especially bad before it actually processes, so you can feel extra wowed when you look at it. It's either that, or it's really that dang good. Either way, the results are amazing.
Knife!
Ah! One thing to keep in mind, if you are shooting in ProRes Log or otherwise, you are going to run this bad boy hot. I'm already getting a notification here that says iPhone needs to cool down before I can continue using it.
Also, when the iPhone generates a ton of heat, the screen becomes really dim. I understand why they're trying to do this. They're trying to prevent the screen from emitting a ton of heat, but it's kind of a bummer because if you're trying to film outside, it's a little bit hard to see.
Now, something to keep in mind between the normal 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max is all the in-between zoom ranges from 1x to 5x. A way to kind of explain this is to take the Pro Max and put it at 4.9x, and then take the normal Pro and put it at 4.9x. What you're seeing between the two is that the normal Pro has a native lens zoom range of 3x. So going up to 4.9x is less of a jump compared to the Pro Max, which is going from 1x all the way up to 5x. So theoretically, 4.9x should actually look worse on the Pro Max, those in-between ranges, because the zoom or the digital crop is significantly higher. Now, if you do plan on filming in ProRes, you will want to make sure that you have enough storage, because my goodness, it takes up a lot of it really quick.
A default normal 5-second video had a size of 14.7 megabytes. In comparison, a 5-second video in Apple ProRes Log came in at 486.9 megabytes. Oh my goodness.
I was using the Samsung T7 SSD, and it gave me a little bit under 400 minutes of recording time at the 2 terabyte storage size. So that is going to be a game changer. But you'll notice when you're not plugged into an external storage device that this prompt comes up that says free resources. So right here, you can see that I only have a little bit over 10 minutes, about 13 minutes available. When I click free resources, it's going to probably upload a bunch of different things to iCloud if you have options for that, like your images and your videos, as well as uninstall temporarily apps in your app store, because you can download those again later on. And if you look through the app drawer right here, you can see that a whole bunch of them are no longer on my device. So it might be temporarily freeing it up so I can film for a little bit. I think that's what's going on. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like that's probably what's happening. I will probably end up filming a ton with the ProRes setting on my iPhone. I'll have to bring an SSD around with me a lot. And some of you may find that to be very impractical or silly to do, but the reality is when I am traveling and filming myself on the go, I am bringing this big old camera with me, which weighs a lot and it's a little bit harder to operate. So kind of crazy what we can get away with now. And remember what I was talking about in terms of exposure when you're filming in log? On a traditional camera, I have all these different settings I need to adjust, like my aperture level. If I have a variable ND, it's kind of like sunglasses for your camera, I have to adjust it to help with that exposure as well. So I'm constantly looking at it. So the question is, do you need a log? Who is this for? That's for a very unique person, for creatives like me, for those who may have some sort of shots that they're filming for a show or movie and they need just like a drop-in shot that most people probably wouldn't notice, which is pretty convenient and amazing that you can do on a phone like this now. But for the everyday person, you probably do not need to shoot and log. It's a lot of extra steps, and it's not something that you'll notice a overwhelmingly dramatic benefit to it that you will probably notice unless you are the type of person that would already know what log is and is excited about it. For the creatives out there that do know what log is, this is a huge jump up, and I hate to admit it, and it's kind of crazy that I would be doing this, but I'm gonna be shooting on log a lot.
There's never been a better time to be a content creator. When I started 7 years ago, I would have loved to have had something like this to make content with. You can legit make a living off of your phone that you just have in your pocket. It's insane.
So let me know what you think about the quality of the ProRes footage, how well it's grading compared to the default processing on the iPhone, and any other questions that you may have. Thanks so much to Sydney for helping out with some of the filming of this video and guest starring in some of it. Go ahead and check out this video down below, and make sure you check the links down below in the description if you would like to pick up an iPhone, a case, or a SSD. That all helps support the channel through affiliate income and helps me continue making content like this for you for free. Thanks so much for watching. This is Tech Today. Until next time. The 15 Pro Max is brighter than the 14 Pro. Wait, yeah, 14 Pro Max.
Yeah.
After you turn 30, you start mixing up all your
You just forget things and you're slowly dying on the inside and out.
I don't want to remember. Anyway.